Hi, I'm Sonia Jante.
And I'm Kimberly Lane.
I'm Tom Henschel. Together, we're Unlocking Leadership. We're three experienced executive coaches with very different disciplines. In each episode, we take a question from a client and we provide key insights to address their challenges from our three different perspectives. It's a holistic approach to understand challenges and opportunities, and we are going to just dive right in. So here we go. Today, our question is from Orlando, from Karina. And Karina wrote, I love this. Here we go. Karina wrote, why are companies investing in executive coaching? Is it because leaders today are less prepared for their role? Sonia, why don't you go first? What do you think?
Well, Karina, thank you for the question. And I think I'm going to give you a little bit of perspective. It's not that they're less prepared for their roles today. I think that there's like four factors that go into why companies are hiring coaches today. And I'll give you a little bit of insight into each one of them and then let Tom and Kimberly weigh in. So the first one is the environment and the conditions under which leaders need to lead today. It is way more complex than it was even 5 years ago, 10 years ago. So the nature of the complexity does bring into the equation having the opportunity to have a thought partner that can give them some ideas, some tools, some knowledge. The second thing is the generation of leaders that are now moving into senior roles grew up in a situation and a circumstance that made them curious to get insight about themselves. So they're way more receptive to self-awareness tools, to assessments, to learning about themselves. So they are on the path to growing their learning agility. The third equation is the people that they're actually leading. The generation of people that are working on their teams grew up very much connected to the internet, to information. And so they long for having a greater connection, a greater participation with leaders. And so I think that that's a whole other set of tools that are required for leaders that they may not get in their normal training in the different disciplines that they might have been involved with. And they might not have gotten mentored by their leaders to do that because they might have been from a different generation. The last thing that I would say is what has happened in the last 2 years or 20 months for us. And that is we're living in unprecedented change. And so I think that as a result of this unprecedented change, many leaders and many companies realize, again, that thought partnership with a coach is going to be helpful to be able to provide different options. Because if you take Tom, Kimberly, and myself, we have lived through many different times in the course of the business that has been going on for at least this, in the last 30 years. And so we can look at some of the different things that we learned and we can apply it and provide that perspective to working with leaders. So it's really an investment that organizations are making, and they're responding to the conditions under which their leaders are working with. So I'll stop there.
All righty. I'll take I think that's a great question. And thank you for reaching out and inquiring about why executive coaching might be more prevalent in organizations today. I concur with what a lot of Sonia said. I think the environment is obviously requiring an outside resource just because of, we've talked about in the past, the VUCA, the volatility that we're under, the uncertainty, the complexity and ambiguity. And I think sometimes having an objective outside partner that's not tied to internal politics and internal agendas can help individuals wrestle and then also meet the challenges of that VUCA environment, because it's very daunting, I think, especially if somebody's in a new leadership position. So having an objective resource like an outside coach is great. It's also can be extremely, number two, lonely at the top. And sometimes it's not a safe environment, or even if it's a safe environment as a leader, leaders are wanting to have another resource to be able to share their insecurities, their blocks, their challenges of the day. and a coach can provide that. And then third, Sonia mentioned this too, it's someone to kind of keep you accountable. If you think of, the Serena Williams of the world, the Roger Federers of the world, many of your top athletes have coaches, and it's because sometimes that coach can help see their blind spots, but also keep them on track to, say, meeting a goal and improving their performance. And I think coaches provide that valuable, accountable partner. Additionally, too, the workplace is moving away from a past hierarchical leadership type of power. And Sonia brought attention to this too, and that the young leaders that are coming in today are wanting to be more hands-on, or wanting to be more connected to their teams and their employees and understanding themselves. And if you look at studies out there, they're showing that there's a huge gap in that empathy and emotional intelligence that's required to be that kind of coach as a leader, and to have some of those, quote, soft skills. And sometimes having an executive coach from the outside can help personally build those empathy and soft skills for the young leaders of today, as they're trying to be better leaders and more in tune with their employees. So I'll pass this on to Tom. What are your thoughts?
Oh my gosh, listening to both of you is amazing, because I totally understand what both of you are saying. And I wouldn't disagree with any of it. And my experience is even more different. It's just different, not more different. It's just, so it's great to hear you talk about accountability, because that raises a big question about really what is the coach's job. And I love that conversation. Oh my God, don't get me started. So one of the things that I want to share with Karina and Sonia, this may sound familiar to you, I don't know, but I started coaching in a period of time when if you were getting a coach, you were probably getting fired. Coach was a punishment.
It was a fix-it coaching.
Right. It was punishment. So look, I had clients who said to me, I'm not kidding, clients who said to me, don't come to my office, I'll meet you at Starbucks. Because they didn't want anybody in their building to know they were getting coached, because it was bad news. So I think quite the opposite has been proven to be true. And I'm so glad to have lived that whole arc, which is now coaching is a reward, right? Coaching is a perk. Coaching is a benefit. People look up the chain and go, well, I'm not high enough yet to get a coach. Mm-hmm. Right. No, because, and this is what I want Karina to know, and I want everybody to know, is coaches are this investment in your high performers, right? So they help your company be better. And I just want to say that I was part of a group of people where we fought so hard against these big companies that pulled us in again, long time ago, when coaching was still new and they wanted us to be fix-it people. Mm-hmm. And the arguments that we had with them, not arguments, but trying to educate them and move them to say, no, that's not how we think of our work. Of course, we still had to do the hatchet work, and we were doing that, but we were really trying hard to change our minds. And I think that argument is pretty much over. And I'm glad. I think now people understand that coaching's an investment. So yay.
It's a huge perk. It's a huge benefit. Great point, Tom. Yeah. Definitely. My gosh, I mean, would all of us love to have a coach or, a buddy partner? I mean, in any area of your life, including work, right? So I think having just that other voice to help you, to bounce off ideas, to support you on what your challenges are, and to have kind of someone to keep you accountable to meet your goals and celebrate in that reward as well. I mean, that's pretty powerful.
Or one of the things that I am aware of, people tell me this, that often there is no one else in their life who listens to them the way I listen to them. And partly I've been working on my listening skills a long time, and they're a pleasure for me. They used to be harder for me. But again, I think that's something that a coach does in addition to accountability. Is I think people get listened to, and so they value their coaches, which is often why they want to pass it on and go, I've got someone I want you to work with, because they care about that person too, right? It's not a punishment.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry. one quick thing, you stimulated some thought, but and I think also too, along having someone listen to you, it's that safe space. I mean, you could tell your coach anything. It's held in confidential, the highest level of confidentiality. So you can share your insecurities, goofball things you want to work on or not, things that can help you not only as a professional, but also in your personal relationship. It's not divided. They're not mutually exclusive. Whatever you work on with your coach not only helps you in your professional environment, but your personal, but just having that safe place, that confidant who gets to really, really know you and help guide you in the right direction, I think we all could use it, right? So Sonia, I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you.
Yeah, no, the other thing that I would say that is a benefit that, again, I think organizations want to provide to their leaders is, as coaches, we have coached in so many different environments under so many different conditions, a variety of leaders. So we have like a ready-made set of knowledge that as soon as they start presenting some information to us, we can sort of complete the sentences and say, hey, that reminds me of this, and these might be some approaches. And so what happens is something that might have taken them like, an hour to explain to somebody that didn't have that relevant experience can take them 10 minutes. And so the bulk of the session is actually spent on strategies and approaches to dealing with and resolving it. So I think that there is a big return on their time and on their actions and what they execute.
I got to say, though, I think that you, Sonia, I think the three of us think about coaching in a way that is holistic and seated in a lot of experience. Correct. And there's a lot of coaching going on right now that is by very inexperienced younger coaches, which, by the way, I used to be one. It's not that they're doing damage, but they don't necessarily have that experience that you're talking about. They don't necessarily have that frame of reference. Or the fact that both of you talked about thinking about coaching as generational. Mm-hmm. That there's a generation of people who want it. That's really interesting because a lot of those people in that generation are coaches themselves, but they're working for younger companies and they're working at a lower price point and they are not as experienced as the three of us. Mm-hmm. And that's not a knock against them. Like I say, that was how I came up, but there's different kinds of coaching right now.
Correct.
Well, I also go ahead, Sonia.
Just to say something about what Tom said, and that is the good news and the bad news is that potentially, so when I remember starting as a coach, I was lucky enough that I had like an organization that the OD person really believed in me and wanted me, helped me understand their culture. And so she felt that I was a good partner to many of the leaders that were coming in, and the organization started acquiring companies. So I was, besides a person that could work well with leaders, I could also be an advocate for the culture and help establish some of the foundations for that. So there were different opportunities that came to me that expanded my breadth of experience. And so I didn't go into one specialty. And so I know that many leaders are like, so what's your specialty? Is it, female leaders? Is it, emotional intelligence? And I believe that there is a place for that, but I think we're living in really complex times. And so we really have to become more holistic over time to really benefit both ourselves and the leaders that we're working with. So I encourage any coach that may be on like what I did is I felt like I, sat at the feet of some of the people that taught me things, because I would go to them and say, I'm running into something, I've never seen it before. How would you handle it? What do you think? And so we established those kinds of relationships so that there was, if you will, that it's like passing on the information from the elders. I think it's helpful and I think it's important. And I think, unfortunately, for the coaching profession, it often operates as like individuals. Everybody's sort of like a lone ranger out there. And we should actually be much more of a group and supporting organization. No, you have a different experience.
Oh, for sure. I'm part of the International Coach Federation Los Angeles chapter, and I've built this astonishing network of coaches. I mean, recently there was a kind of emergency, and I knew right who to call because of International Coach Federation.
Perfect.
So I feel like I'm in a very supportive community, a learning community, and I feel grateful for that. And it's part of what allows me to look and hear these stories about people who are like coaching on Better Up and stuff. And I think, oh, I don't know that I would let you coach my niece. Like, I don't, like, but I understand that you're getting some experience and you're getting your feet wet, but there's some company paying for you. I wouldn't want you as a coach, but okay, okay. And so there's that coaching out there too. So it's
No,
anyway.
and I think every coach had, I think that's what's so beautiful about us working together. We're coaching is a team effort, I believe, because there are clients sometimes where there might be a certain incidents where I can reach out to you guys and say, hey, this is the way I'm coming at it, but you guys have a different approach. What are some of your thoughts? So we have the power of bringing in the insights of the others in order to help our clients. Karina, the other thing I want to mention too is what's nice about coaching. It can be very goal driven, meaning a lot of my engagements are 6 months, and this has a definitive start, a definitive plan of how often we meet, and a definitive plan is when we're going to end. And there's objectives to how we're going to measure the success at the end. And so that's kind of the beauty of it. It doesn't have to be this ongoing year upon year thing. You can have a coach for a particular reason. Maybe there's a doctor that sold her practice and now she's a CEO of a hospital and really needs to be able to transition into that role. And so 6 months is the typical engagement period to get her up to speed and comfortable and learning the new skills she needs as a leader of a hospital versus leading her practice, right? So, it could be a very specific goal, and that's really the beauty of coaching. And, if you're really interested in wanting the benefit, it sounds like you're astute enough that maybe you could contact your HR department and ask them if they would. I'm sure they've got coaches on hand that might be a good partner for you. Just food for thought, since you seem to have an interest. Were you going to say something, Tom?
Oh, no, I'm loving this. I mean, look, I could talk about coaching and the value of coaching and how coaching happens all day long. One of the things that I think you raise an interesting point, Kimberly, when you say that it's action-oriented, goal-oriented, you're going to measure success, there's a clear beginning and end. This is not therapy. Where therapy, where you go into something that's just kind of open-ended and, and really we're going to talk about your childhood because we got lots of time because we got years. It's like, no, actually, no. I mean, 6 months sounds like a long time, but it's not. And I think it's our job to be good stewards for the organization, right? They say this leader's here, we want her to get over there. We have to make that journey happen in a prescribed amount of time. So again, I think the message to Karina as we close out here is that coaching has a lot of different parts to it, but it is a really well-defined service that is an investment. It is an investment on the company's part. They're not giving it to people who are failing. I don't think so.
Yep, it's definitely an investment to get you to your highest level of leadership, right?
Just like us.
Yes, for sure. So thank you, Karina from Orlando, for your question today. We hope you, our viewers and listeners, gained new insights on why organizations are investing in executive coaching for their leaders and the key benefits of having an external objective resource. To our listeners, if you like the content we shared today, please like this episode and also share and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Unlocking Leadership askthecoaches.com. We look forward to reading your reviews. You can also find Unlocking Leadership Ask the Coaches on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. If you have a leadership question or would like to reach out to one of our coaches, please email us at info@unlockingleadership-askthecoaches.com. We would love to hear from you. Thanks for joining us today. Tune in next time for the keys to unlocking your best leadership.